What's up, guys and girls, and welcome back to a new bot video. Today I'm talking with the creator of Negative Zero, currently one of the strongest bot and the most recent Pro Bot Season 2 champion. What's up, mindme? How are you doing?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. I played a couple of games against your bot. I figured it would be fun if I play with every single race to really see, you know, what Negative Zero is capable of. And the first one, obviously, well, I played 2 games where I had to test my settings, and then all of a sudden your bot told me back for more pain, puny human. You won 0 times. I was like, all right, buddy, calm it down. I was just testing my settings, but I didn't get a response to that. Are there certain... Let me just start with the first question that I have. Are there certain bots that talk back and have like conversations with each other, or is it just like one scripted line? Or I know that I think it was one of the Zerg bots that I've seen before, that whenever someone burrows says, you're burrowing, you slimy guy, or whatever. Is this common?
Yeah, it's mostly cues, but there's one bot. He will called Sharkbot. He was originally the author made chat bots, so it will do a little bit. I think it's mostly pre-scripted, but it will respond to things.
Okay, that's good to know. I actually have some questions in general. You have different build orders per matchup, or do you have one build order per matchup when it comes to
I have currently right now. There's in the version I sent you. There's one build for Protoss. There's 2 builds for Terran, and then 2 builds for Zerg. Now there's 3 builds I have that I've been only using in tournaments, but I recently just uploaded on the ladder, but I don't think it's active in this one.
Okay, yeah. And when you decide on builds, this is mainly just your thinking process of what will be the most all around, or like what is the thinking when it comes to selecting builds for these bots? Because most of the time you're only thinking about bot versus bot play. Is that correct?
Yeah. We use data a lot of times, so I'll know that I've lost with that build before, or if I won with before, and then it'll just keep using. If it wins, it'll keep using it, and if it loses, and it says, "Oh, I'll try something different."
Okay. And with this specific build order, this is like practically a very fast robo and some type of immortal-ish follow-up. Is this one that you then you kind of just hard-coded yourself, or is this a build you steal online from some pro player, then you put it in?
Most of my builds I steal from you, the ones you do the videos on.
Okay.
This one, you're Protoss, so most of the bots on the ladder there's a lot of 4-gate bots with blinkers, with blink stalkers. So this one kind of does a quick robo and tries to counter that, because that's mostly what I see. With the bots, I don't know how it is with humans, but with the bots, usually with Protoss versus Protoss, the first the bot to expand usually loses, because it's just that close with the units.
Really?
So the bot I mentioned earlier, Shotbot, he's done a little bit of a wall off in his natural, and he's had some success with that. So the meta might change with that, but for now it's mostly the first one to expand.
Yeah, with humans, that's not always the case, but of course in PvP it's not completely uncommon for the first one to expand to also lose. So here I saw the adepts. I just kind of want to go over that little interaction again. Your adepts seem to struggle a lot with proper stalker kiting. Is this something that you're like trying to fix, or what is this?
It's just mostly it's the range thing. They have too small a range, so
right.
It's just. I mean, I could probably keep them out further. But they're wanting to get back up where they're at right now. So they were trying. They didn't really want to fight. They were trying to get back up there. But with the bots, it doesn't always know it's in danger until it gets in danger. If that makes sense.
Could you explain that a bit?
Well, we don't use pathing. I don't anyway. Some bots do. So it doesn't know that it's about to step into a position that's bad. So
like a corner or something, you mean?
Well, yeah, it doesn't understand that either. But like it doesn't. So, the stalker range is 6, right?
Yeah.
And then I think the depth is 4. So it knows when it moves into a range of 6 that it's in danger.
Right.
But when it's outside that, it doesn't always know because it says, "Oh, I'm I'm out of range." So then it moves in and it says, "Oh no, I'm in range, so I gotta move out."
You kind of get the dancing back and forth that we just saw here at the ramp.
Right. Yes. Exactly. If I was doing pathing, and then I could say that, "Oh, I know I'm going to step to this position here," then I could say, "Oh, I would know in advance." But that's pathing is it takes a lot of the computer resources. So I try to skip it. Maybe one day I'll add it. Some bots do, but I get really I get upset when it's not very very fast.
Yeah, I can imagine. What is one of the main things that when you think of one of the things that you would like to improve, but you're not entirely sure how you were to improve it? Is there something there?
Well, I mean, it's a lot of times the hardest thing about bots is it's identifying the situation that you're in. So, like, it doesn't realize things that are simple for a human. Like you can look at this thing and you can say, "Oh, that's just that's just bad. Why would you do that?" But a bot, it doesn't see it that way, and it's hard to code the bot into a way that it recognizes the situation.
Right.
If that makes sense.
So here, for example, it's actually a perfect example. I swear this isn't scripted. You have here perhaps the moment a human would see this stalker warp in that's coming up right now. Perhaps you would, rather than going into this position, you would walk away and shade in. Or you would walk in towards the natural to kill one more thing and shade away. So like some type of shading move where you pretty much make sure that your adepts stay alive. But I guess in this case, that's pretty difficult for the bot. Does it realize that there's a stalker warping in here? Is that something that it actively sees?
Yeah, it sees it, but it doesn't see it as a threat yet because it doesn't do any damage. So until it does, I'm not going to change that, obviously. I just, most of I'm probably going to get rid of these adepts. Most of the times they don't accomplish much. They did a little better than average here, I think, with the worker kills.
I'm worse than the average bot is what you're saying?
A year ago, nobody could beat the adepts. I would just build adepts, and that was basically it, and people would have a hard time because they're constantly warping in and out, and the bots seem to focus. But now it's a year later, people are getting better at it. So a lot of people put the power on up and block it at the main. So then they don't do anything. And so a lot of it's used for scouting.
I was surprised to not find a battery here, by the way, when I was doing with my Oracle. Because honestly, this situation, if you look at it, is pretty dangerous. But I literally have 4 stalkers. I played kind of greedy. I built a lot of workers. I lost a lot of workers as well already. And I went Stargate. So I have no immortals, no nothing. But I figured with a sentry, bots probably aren't too brilliant with the ramp. So I still felt somewhat confident in holding this. And then when I saw the complete lack of a battery here, and also the Stargate, that kind of confused me, to be honest. It felt pretty good. Sorry, go ahead.
So the Oracle is a pretty hard unit to control for bots because we don't really get cooldown information because it's always thinks it's able to fire. It doesn't have any kind of cooldown on that or the void rays. So they're a little difficult to control, and I don't really see them that often. So it's not something that I come across with bots very much.
Yeah, this is really one of the things, right, where you can see that this is a bot made for other bots rather than for human play. If you were to create... Sorry, go ahead.
People are starting to get a little better with them, but yeah, so far it hasn't been a threat. Okay. So that's definitely something I should probably do in the future. Like I said earlier, most of the builds I come across are 4-gate stalkers. There's 2 other bots, 3 now. One of them just came active again. They do a little more macro, but most bots, protoss bots, are stalker bots, and very little will harass. I think one does it decently, and by decently I mean it might get 1 or 2 kills before it,
Right.
So I should probably change that, especially for humans.
So here I thought the movement was pretty interesting from the Immortals and the Stalkers as well. Like the constant kind of bouncing back and forth, trying to Well, I'm not actually sure what they're doing, but it looks pretty tight at least.
Yeah,
And
they all act individually, so it's sometimes they do a little weird. I need to come up with some code to keep them group them up better. Sometimes you want the thing is sometimes you want them to be acting individually, and sometimes you want the OP protoss ball. And,
yeah. I guess that's a difficult one as well, kind of the hard coding, because all of this is hard coded, correct?
Well, I mean, it's all based on situation, but yeah, it's all the whole bot is scripted.
Okay.
So it's saying, oh, well, I see this situation, and yeah, oh wow, I actually did well. Surprising.
Yeah, you won. I do want to make some excuses for myself, of course, before we go on to the next replay. This isn't quite how I expected it to go. I was very surprised by the timing it hit with the Immortals. Not that it was extremely fast, but I must have disrespected the bots a little bit too much. And I was like, this actually doesn't look good when the two Immortals were down there. And I started sweating a little bit and getting nervous, and then didn't. I shouldn't have finished my Twilight Council. I think I lost my Oracle on the other side as well. Things went down really fast. And in my mind, what I was gonna do is I wanted to play like a best of 3 with every single race, or like a best of 3, and then play with every race once. So one game with TOS, one game with Zerg, one game with Terran. I was thinking to myself, it's possible that I lose with Zerg or Terran, but in PvP I'm pretty safe. But then I lost the first game.
I think it's because you expanded.
Sorry?
It's because you expanded, I think.
Yeah, I think that I'm just slightly too high on the probes. The Twilight Council is stupid. If I would have played against a human, or if I would have played, I think, a little bit more powerful. I mean, the moment I don't see a Nexus here, I just battery up my natural like a madman, start pumping out Void Rays. But yeah, I mean, props. Like it has quite powerful timings, and the first 2 adepts actually did a lot of damage as well, which was impressive to me.
Yeah, usually stalkers at home shut them down pretty well. I thought you would have went up in the base at the start there because I thought you had the 2 stalkers and against the 2 adepts, I thought you had the upper hand there.
Yeah,
and I'm not sure why it built the Stargate. Maybe it's because it saw your Stargate. I'm not quite sure what happened there.
What's kind of it? Well, it's an interesting game to start with. Right. The one question I actually was wondering about: how much time do you think has been invested into -0?
Oh, it's many hours. I basically it takes up my gaming time mostly. I pretty much quit other gaming. I still do some, but like probably like 80-90% of my gaming time is I do bots instead.
Really?
So it's I mean it's I started this one. It's about a year and a half old now, but it's I mean, but really it's older than that because I had built other bots before. So I knew when I built this one how I wanted to do things. Whereas in the past on my older bots, I probably rewritten my micro probably 10, 15 times. So, but when I came on this bot, I knew right away what I wanted to do. But still, it's many hours, probably, I don't know, hundreds.
Hundreds, okay. So, and overall, in your like when it comes to botting, you think you spent like a solid 1,000 hours or so on it, something like that?
Over the year, I've been doing it for 4 years now, so yeah, easily.
Okay, easily. Okay, nice. It's good to hear.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious for Terran because here you do end up expanding. Against Terran, it's a lot safer.
This one is the Adept Twist build.
Yeah.
So this is the parting build. I got this off. This was the first build I ever did on this bot. It used to be Adepts, and then it would be more Adepts. Now it's a bit more. It does other things now after it does the Adepts. But yeah, I got this build from your video.
Yeah, I do have to admit, when I was playing, I was like, man, these are some tight build orders. I wonder where he got them from. I'm not too fond of the build you do against Zerg right now. We can talk about it later. Maybe I have something for you. You can put into any future iterations.
I struggle with Zerg the most. I do. I really struggle. I need to. A lot of the builds use air, and I really hate to use air. I mean, it's not because they're hard; it's because they're easy, and I kind of find it boring.
Right.
I want to win with ground units, but it's not always possible. There's sometimes if they start making Vipers and things, you have no choice.
I actually have a question about that as well. When it comes to like situational responses, what could one of these things look like? Imagine we'll get to a point where you'll get your first warp in. You're playing a 3-gate here, and that first warp in I think is Adepts. But is there something you could see where that first warp in is Stalkers? And what decides if you put the first warp in over here at your pylon, or if the first warp in is at home? Because there are situations obviously where maybe there's like a proxy barracks here pumping out Marauders, and then Marauders arrive over here, and rather than having the warp in at the aggressive pylon, you want it defensively. Like, what are kind of the cues, and how do you make something like that happen?
Okay, well, so it's basically I call it a 2-stage bot. So I have my initial stage, which is initial build order, so which this would be the Adepts. So it will come down in the Adepts, and once that initial, it goes into a macro mode. So no matter what build I do for stage 1, the macro build is always the same, and it works off counter tables. If it detects a Marauder, it will just abandon the build, and it goes into a defensive build.
Really?
So if it sees, it does a lot of scouting. That's one of the things. If I can't scout Zerg, I have a hard time scouting Zerg rushes sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So if I don't scout them, I'll just lose a lot of times because it's so powerful.
That's very interesting. So for example, right now you spotted that it was a 1-gas. You haven't seen the command center, but you know it's a 1-gas build order. So is it then something that's on like the counter table, and then it's like, all right, we're safe to build the pylon here in the gateway, or how does that work?
It's just if it hasn't seen anything that freaks it out, it's just going to keep doing what it does. So
okay,
it doesn't think you're going to rush it. If it thinks you're going to rush, then it'll start being more defensive. But right now, it doesn't think you're going to, and it doesn't use any adepts for scouting. So
why is that?
Well, this build.
Okay,
Other builds they'll send them in earlier.
okay.
This one, it just wants to save them, and I think it gets 5 or I think it gets 6 total here, and then it'll move them all in.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
this
7
was pretty strong for quite a while. I mostly kept it in. Oh, see, it doesn't. Normally it would have. In the past, it would attack, but it knows that you have a bigger army than it likes, so it's being hesitant instead of just like shading in.
Okay, this Hellion is like I was pretty happy with this Hellion passing by, because I figured either there's going to be no warp-ins at home, or it's going to force a warp-in at home. And with both, I'm going to be pretty happy. Honestly, at this point, I was panicking, because I was down 0-1 and I didn't have a bunker. I didn't scout whatsoever until this Hellion got it. It was like, oh my god, this can't be happening. And I also don't think I live my depots in time. So I do believe this one doesn't get finished, this shade. Maybe like one Adept or something finishes. I'm not quite sure what happened, but yeah. This ended up being a really good trade, and I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about, a pretty good trade for you. You get like 8 worker kills, but then these Adepts get like semi-stuck. You're actually in a really good position. Or well, -0 is in a good position. You're probably asleep at the time, but...
I have like 50 APM. I'm so bad at this game.
You get other people to do the hard lifting for you. The brilliant architect behind it, though.
I'm just terrible at I forget to make probes. I forget everything. And especially since I do bots, so in my head I expect the game to just make probes for me and go ahead and make them optimal with the mining and everything, because that's when I'm watching it. That's what I don't even pay attention to it. So it really, I'm terrible.
That's actually a funny thing. In some way, you're playing the purest form of a strategy game, where there's no execution whatsoever.
Yeah, that's the great thing about it is I only have to program it once, and then it's there. That's what I love about it so much. Is you have to. Oh, this might be bad. I don't remember if I have. Oh yeah.
So this actually confused me, because I figured that like auto splits or something wouldn't be insanely hard to have.
It's not. Like I said earlier, I worry about my frame rate, how quickly the bot's able to make all its decisions between in the frame. So I should probably at least somewhat dodges. Right now, they just don't dodge because I don't want to check every frame.
Okay.
I probably really should because that happens, but that doesn't really happen much with bots. If bots started doing it more, then I would have to do that. They will move away if they get damaged, but they didn't really have a chance to get damaged there.
They all died. I actually have a question a bit about that, about like the strategizing before the tournament when it comes to bot versus bot competitions, because you guys run a ladder that runs 24/7, correct?
Yeah, there's about 1,500 battles a day.
1,500. Okay, and all of these replays are also public, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then you can also request matches against. So if I was testing against a certain bot or something, or I don't like to test. I like to test against situations, and then the bots just provide them. But yeah, if I wanted to test that, you can also request matches. So it's pretty open.
So when you're like preparing for a bot tournament, does everyone put in new strategies different than what they did on the ladder? And are there some hard counters in there, or how should I see that? Is it super competitive like that, or is everyone very friendly with one another? Like what's
It's very competitive. You have a lot of times, people just keep using the build that works. If they have something on there, and then some people come in with new builds, and then they also have a thing they call it sniping, which is so you're going to go against a bot, and maybe a bot will bug out some kind of way if you do something weird, and so people will find those vulnerabilities and they'll exploit them. That's why if you looked at the start, it says worker rush and cannon rush and I think contain. They're all
contain rush.
Yeah, they're all disabled, but that's because I don't want people to do that. Because people will test against the human part, and they'll find out, if you only send 8 probes, or if you send 8 probes and then leave, he's going to do some kind of crazy, worker rush stuff. And so then they'll use that in the tournament, and then you don't have a chance to update, and they'll just, just bam 3-0 real quick. So,
is there any like famous examples of something like that happening in tournament, or is the probe example like a good example?
There's this bot. It's called Micro Machine, and it was a #1 bot for years, and it's still like top 5, even though they haven't been working on it lately. And it gets, I think it like probably 80% of the time it ended up getting sniped just by that. So yeah, it can be really bad.
And what will it be sniped by then? Just like some drones moving in pretending to work a rush, or like a pylon building somewhere pretending it to be a cannon rush, or
oh yeah, there was probably one of the craziest was so you have a view on the bot, right? And it's hard you don't really know if something's out of view unless you save the data. So what the person would do is they would take their probes, right? And it only took like I think half of them or so. I can't remember exactly, but they would take the probes and they would go to the top of the ramp, and that would put the probes in view. And so Micro Machine would try to react, and it would start moving its workers towards its SCVs towards the probes. But then when the workers that close, the probes would go back down the ramp and they disappear, and Micro Machine would go back mining. So it just sat there back and forth like that over and over and over. And meanwhile, it was building up its own army, and it just crushed them.
So good.
So I mean, when you're watching it, it's very entertaining. But when you're the guy that's getting it done too, it's super frustrating. It's like no.
That's okay. I was a little bit disappointed by this response when I was playing.
We don't get many drops in bots either. They used to. But yeah, this is bad. I need to pull them.
I had a question about it in general, about like dropships and prisms and Nidus networks. So basically, especially when it comes to prisms and Nidus networks, these are threats where the threat level is not always going to be the same, right? A prism could drop a single zealot, or it could warp in 12 zealots. A Nidus network could send in 1 ling, or it could move in 15 lurkers. What is like, how do you deal with this type of issue where the response is super game dependent in a way? Like you can't just say, oh, you see a Nidus, send your entire army there, because then people could just spam an empty Nidus and your entire army runs there. Like this type of scenarios, how do you deal with that?
So, a lot of times, what you just said, well, exactly what happened. You'll see your entire army. So I mean, I use a scoring system for my units, so they don't really tell them to do exactly that. I give a unit's kind of a score based on, you know, like that tank right there that's almost dead. He's going to have a high score, so that I would, you know, prioritize the priority towards it. But then, yeah, the drop, it's kind of hard because those aren't going to be well, currently, maybe I should score them higher. They're not going to be that high because it's just Marines, and it doesn't realize, at least in code, that it, you know, what's going on there exactly. It just thinks, you know, it's that's just there, and it's got this other attack going on at the same time. So yeah, it's kind of confused a bit.
Yeah, honestly, like the early game was very good for you, but then that drop, it killed like what 15, 20 workers or so. Really got me back in the game. I was sweating like a madman here. Like I had wet spots under my arms that I hadn't seen in years.
Also, the other thing is when it gets into this situation, it's hard to know when to just like go for it. Like these guys here should probably just like blink up on some of these tanks.
Yeah, or just a move. It would be better than the constant back and forth. But I guess you kind of need. There is some deterrence away from tanks, right? You don't just want to always attack into tanks. So I guess that makes some sense. I also was a bit confused by this sometimes. So this Phoenix specifically, we'll go back. So it was fairly good at microing around medevacs, like especially in the earlier parts, but also here. Like the moment it gets shot, it micros away. But then at this point, it just flies in and kind of gives its life for ire for whatever reason. Like here it's still going. And
I think need to work on them some more. What's going on is it generally so when it sees that thinks their ground units are going to be attacking, it put itself in more danger is the idea. So that it would join the ground units, but it's a little buggy there. I think it doesn't. You know, I noticed that a lot. They die way more than they should. And I probably don't even know why it's actually building a Phoenix there, to be honest. It mostly wants Tempest because in bots, range is a big deal. So it sees that you have all these tanks, and it's like, oh, well, you know, that's you know, when it gets that many tanks, it's going to want to start building Tempest because Tempest are probably one of the most overpowered units in the game.
Yeah, when it comes to bots, or just in general.
I don't know, but I'm completely unqualified to talk about balance outside of bots.
Everyone is unqualified to talk about balance. Put your head in the ring, my friend. You can say whatever you want. The Battle.net forums are filled with it. You adding something on will not hurt anyone.
So, with the Tempest, the thing of it is they can often stay out of range, so you don't know where the shots are coming from. And then if you and then they're moving all the time. So with the tank, the tanks are pretty powerful too, for the same reason they got all that range. But with the tanks, they got to stay on the ground, number one, and number two, they're going to have to siege up, so they're not moving. And you get the snapshot, that helps, and they're not going to move from that point. So I can see a tank, and I can say, oh, I know that tank is there. When you see a Tempest, you'll think that Tempest is still there, but it's really just moved somewhere else.
Yeah.
So they're very, very, very powerful. I tried to avoid using them, but when you bring out a bunch of tanks, it's, you know, I don't feel so bad.
I like how honorable you are. It's like I try to avoid the air because it's pretty broken, but in a tournament you would pull it out, or also you'd still just play the honorable style.
I mean, it's certain units. Everything is a counter. So what it sees is if you have like, so it's building the Colossus because it sees you have a lot of Marines. So when you have a lot of Marines, it says, oh, I want a Colossus, and then when it sees a bunch of tanks, it's going to say, oh, I want a Tempest, because, you know. But if you don't make a lot of them, then it's going to build. You pretty much choose what units the bot is going to respond with based on what you build. So if you never built, you know, all those tanks, you're not going to see, you know, this, but then you're going to see what it's going to think is better for what you built.
Right. So there's like what about spellcasters? Like things like sentries, Templar, disruptors. I haven't seen those a whole lot. Are they difficult to use, or?
Well,
You
They
laugh. I
can
made a
be.
mistake.
No, I when in the pro bots, my disruptors, I had disruptors in it, and they were pretty bugged and bad, and they kept killing my own units. I've fixed them since, but yeah, it was pretty bad. I haven't done Templars yet. Sentries I really need to do because I'm thinking like on the this one doesn't. This was the dip twist, but I do another a blink robo, and
Hmm.
I use an adept for scouting, and it gets a lot of times it gets shut down, especially by Terran because they build a wall, and their walls are instant. They're not gonna let an adept in. You know, as soon as they see the depth, the wall goes up, the depots go up, and you're blocked.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're very
So I
good.
need
Same with
to
the pylon blocking, right? In PvP. Like,
right, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I noticed your
Uh,
build is very good against the adepts.
yeah, the so yeah, also in PvP, I'm gonna thinking of changing those to stalkers. But the thing is, with like the PvP, I use that to they go in there and they try to get damage, but they're also scouting. Is their big? That's the main purpose of them. Is to scout to see
Right.
see if you're going like air for sky toss or whatever. So then they would say, oh, I need to start building because some people do a void race, a little void raid rush or something. So it says, oh, I need to build or carriers.
I
Uh,
need more stalkers.
So I'm gonna have. I want to get rid of the. I want to get rid of the adepts and make stalkers because I see when people make two stalkers to start, it just even without the blocking, it just completely they
Hmm.
just I'm at a disadvantage right away.
Right.
But then I'm gonna need a scout, so I'm thinking I want to build
A
the
sentry
sentry.
stalker. Yeah,
So I'm
something like
gonna
that.
do like two stalkers or maybe one stalker and a sentry, and then you know hallucinate a phoenix over and use that to scout.
That makes some sense. I like that. All right. Yeah. One is the score, and Zerg is my weakest off race as well. So, a little bit excited.
Oh well,
Dude.
Zerg is also my weakest, so I guess that evens out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But most of the bots are Zerg too these days. I think Zerg is very powerful for a bot, but they're also they're a little harder to program. I think because they got the lings are so important with the melee. Melee is pretty pretty difficult to control.
Why is that? Because no range, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. It's just because you're gonna spend so much time. So if you're gonna attack Stalker, you think, oh, when you're range 6 out. You think, oh, I got this, all these things with all these health, but then, they get closer,
Hmm.
and then you're like, oh, no, 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 this is not good. But then you can't leave because then you're gonna. But the good bots do it. Eris is the top bot, and it wins like 90 something percent
Really?
of it, and it's very good with doing that. It makes really really good decisions.
Here, I misplaced my hatchery.
Oh, where'd my screen go? I don't see the screen.
Oh, wait.
Oh, so yeah, on this interesting thing about Zerg, when it's impossible to block the Zerg hatch
Why is that?
because they with the speed mining adds like 10% more minerals. So
Oh,
they do a Zerg the hatch or the extractor trick. So they get the 15 uh, slash
15 hash.
14.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, and then they have so many minerals so quick for the natural that even if I send the probe on the very first frame, it won't reach the natural in time.
I guess
It's
that was a real issue in the past then for Zergs before speed mining got introduced.
yeah, it was. I mean, there's some bots. I mean, I'll still do it, but so now I switched it to do a pylon and then scout. I used to try to, and I just gave up because it's just impossible.
Ah,
It's
that's
just
good.
so quick with that hatch.
So, for the people that are not aware, could you tell us about speed mining for a second?
Oh yeah, with speed mining, you can see it there. It was discovered or brought to us by Scarlet, the Zerg pro player. She made a bot and she introduced it. And what it is when your probes get close to the minerals or to the nexus, they start to slow down. So what you do is you put a extra command in there to move it when it reaches close to about halfway or so. Right before it slows down, you do a move to right there in front of you can see the click to
Yeah,
right
yeah,
in
yeah.
front of the mineral, and then back it up with them, and it skips the slowdowns part. So the probes go full speed there all the way and back instead of slowing down without it. So it adds about 10 to 12% extra minerals, which is a big thing I get. Whereas most builds are like expand on 20, I'm opting on 19. Cyber on 19 instead of 20. Nexus on 19 instead of 20.
Right, right. There is another thing, right, when it comes to this type of stuff. Is it Micro Machine that builds bunkers near the refineries so he can mine really fast through the bunker?
Oh, yeah. It's the gas bunkers. I think he's the only one that does it. But if the two gas are next to each other, you put a bunker in between them and it just loads in. And he's able to get full saturation with, I think, between two gas with only four workers and gets full saturation out of it. Yeah, like this one here. You could totally put a bunker there. And yeah.
The first time I watched that, I was like, "Hey, that's pretty fun." And then after 3 seconds, I'm like, "That's not fun anymore because the noise is driving you insane."
Yeah, it's very loud. It's very loud. I've also seen people. That other bot I mentioned earlier, Sharkbot, he has a warp prism, and he'll when he's not using his warp prism to fight or whatever, he'll go to a mineral line and he'll get even faster mining by picking them up and then throwing them back down.
No way. That's even faster than. So he'll have a prism on top of this,
Right?
And then
yeah.
he'll. I guess you could even do it with 2 prisms technically, one on each side.
Right. I don't think it's efficient enough to do it if you're fighting, but if you're if your warp prism isn't doing anything, you might as well.
That's so great. This is the type of stuff I really like the little weird tricks that are only possible for the bots. I'm a huge fan of that. That's
Yeah,
so good.
it's very interesting.
Yeah.
I Scarlet, when she did it, it was just she destroyed lots and lots of bots because it was just such a huge advantage on the speed mining. And then on top of that, she's very smart and knows build orders. So she had a protoss bot, and it was a 4-gate stalker bot, and it would just hit so quick and so hard. It was destroying people. It was
The rest
crazy.
of the bot was pretty primitive, if I recall correctly, right?
Yeah. It had struggled on ramps really bad. Was the weakness, and but yeah, I mean, it was a really good bot overall. But when you discover new things like that, it has somewhat of a short
Yeah.
a life shelf because everybody else is gonna everybody speeds mine now. It's
Yeah.
if you're not speed mining, you're not gonna be all that competitive.
Yeah.
It's just a huge difference, and it's probably one of the main reasons why it's even remotely possible for bots to keep up with humans at your level at all. Because without it, it's just
Yeah. You just get blasted.
yeah. Because it's very hard to. I like to say things that are easy for humans are hard for bots, and things that are hard for humans are easy for bots. So it's easy to have 50,000 APM and your units any way you want to, but doing it smartly is quite a different story. Oh, you're blocking my natural.
Yeah. Yeah. This
There should
build,
be
I was a little surprised by with how weak it was. Like it felt like there were units just everywhere and nowhere at the same time. What is the main struggle when it comes to having this type of fairly aggressive build against Zerg?
Well, this one is Adepts. This is kind of an older one. I do this one, and then also I'll do another one with Stalkers. The thing is, I think it's probably the biggest thing is it's trying to transition into other things, and then sometimes it can give it a pause with the unit building, so it doesn't build as many units as it should. That's something I need to work on a bit.
Okay, could you explain that a bit more? So imagine you scout 7 roaches, then there might be a trigger saying, "Hey, against roaches, I want a row bay or whatever," and then you cut build and clave adepts. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, basically, because that's what this is. And then also, when I originally did this, originally did this build, isn't really the main build I would use anymore. Against Zerg, when I originally did it, it would follow it up with just more depths. So getting the glaives, and also it didn't have any concept of defending for a long time, so it would just keep attacking you and just warping those shades in on your mineral line. it would just bypass you. It bypass your army, and it would just keep attacking. The adepts would just keep attacking your workers, and it
Right.
would eventually. And you would have you'd have adepts at every one of your bases trying to. But like I said, against Zerg, this is another thing. Only bots can do. What Zerg bots started doing to do that was they started getting burrow really quick, and they will burrow their workers before you can kill any of them. So your adept shade in, and all the workers are burrowed, and you're just sitting there like.
I have a question about it actually. If so, imagine your bot sees 5 banelings burrow in front of you. Will it then know that there's 5 banelings there, or how does that work? Like
Yeah. It'll know if it sees it. As long as it sees it,
yeah,
it'll do it. And then I save the position.
and then it will know to not go there with High Templar or Zealots or whatever as well.
Yeah, in theory.
Okay. I mean, of course, it can go wrong, but okay, that is very interesting. And in general,
Yeah.
I'm wondering about things like invisible units, because technically you can see the shimmering on the map. Can bots see that as well, or no?
Yeah. You can't sneak in. You can't really sneak those kinds of units in very much because we see the shimmer instantly, and the bot's gonna know right away this is where it is, and it's gonna know what it is, and yeah, there's no hiding. But the thing of it is even if you know where it is, you still can't attack it
Right.
without vision. So they can still do some damage, but they're not near as powerful in the bot world as they are with humans. Because
Very interesting.
Human probably doesn't notice it until it starts doing damage.
Yeah, this is one of the biggest things with people often think that not having detection is the thing that kills you the most, but the fact that you can't see them on the minimap is probably the biggest thing for humans when it comes to invisible units. It's like
Oh, I didn't know that.
if you could see them on the minimap, invisible units really wouldn't be an issue whatsoever. Like obviously, if you detect them, you can see them on the minimap, but
Oh, okay.
just
So yeah,
yeah,
with bots, basically, it's like we can see them on the mini map. Yeah,
because it's just
we
huge.
know.
Yeah, that's super cool. I didn't think of that at all. I thought it was more. I know nothing about anything like this, so in my mind that would have been impossible. But I was just wondering. Very interesting. Now here, actually, this is one of the things I was surprised by was that we already discussed disruptors a bit earlier, but that the disruptors waited very long sometimes to shoot. Like, what are the triggers for disruptor shots? I understand you don't want to mention everything, but just broadly.
See, it's getting really close because it doesn't realize it's playing a human. It doesn't realize you have bad reflexes. It thinks it's playing a bot. It thinks it's playing a bot that has perfect response. So what it's doing is it's taking it's calculating, your speed of of the roaches, and it's saying I need to be this close before I can kill it. Because it didn't expect you to just jump on the disruptor that way. Most bots aren't that smart. It's expecting you to run away. So when it fires, you can run away, and it's still going to hit at least one unit.
Yeah.
But you didn't do what bots do.
And
So,
apparently my reactions are a bit too slow as well. Inferior response time. Yeah, I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, a bot. I mean, I shoot so many. Yeah, it's just terrible. It's like right up on it when it's. Oh, that one got off.
Yeah, I wasn't happy with that. We're straight back home.
So yeah, I should put it in a thing for humans in real time to extend that distance a little bit because it can probably zone humans a little bit better too than it does bots because bots can just kind of mold around it.
Yeah, they're just gonna split around it. It looks ridiculous. Here, I'm gonna be real. I was very afraid again. Yeah.
Probably the craziest disruptor thing that happened a couple of years ago in a tournament with my old bots. The way I used to do it was I would the adept thing or the disruptor ball, the shot. It would take and it would look for all the units around, and it would get the center of them, right? So it would see like 10 units, and it would get the center, and it would go to the center. Well, what happened was this other bot perfectly surrounded the ball. And so even though they were all around it, it still thought that the position to hit was in the center.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it just sat there in the center, and they were all just perfectly split around. It was really cool to see. Not so great from my end, but it was really awesome. So I had to rethink that. Oh wow, that was a good shot.
Yeah. No bile dodgers there in the prison.
Yeah, there is, but it's kind of it goes back to what I was saying before with not knowing it's in danger until it's too late. I put a little bit of buffers in there. Also, the thing is, it was probably still running away because it had in range of other units.
Oh, queen,
So,
right.
so it just happened to be running in that direction and then hit. It was a good shot.
How does it work in general when it comes to um, like perceiving a threat level? Imagine you get surrounded from like two sides. Let's just take this scenario here, and imagine your bot is the Zerg. No, actually, let's just imagine your bot is the bot. Might be easier. And then there's like part of an army here, and there's 6 roaches here on this side. But the 6 roaches on this side start attacking faster. Will it then realize that this is a stronger side, or will it kind of move away from these 6 roaches into the bigger army? Like, well, is there a point system when it comes to threat level as well, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's going to look at the DPS. So if it was uh, if this main army was out of range and this your roaches over here by this disruptor were coming up, it would probably initially push the units back towards your army. But then when this bigger army gets there, it's going to push them. You know, this will be the bigger threat, and it will move them back towards
The disruptor area.
right. Yeah. So it's just and then that's one of the things is I don't use padding or pathing. So maybe if I use pathing, it would say, "Oh, this is going to be bad in a minute." But right at that moment, it's just going to say, "Oh, well, if I just move here, I'm safe." Even though it's actually moving closer to danger, it's not going to realize it's going to say, "Oh, well, I'll just move here and it's safe."
Right. What about batteries? Do you care a lot about movement to batteries or no? Is that not a thought at all?
I think it's on my list. I thought I had it done, but I've been watching lately. And I don't think like that disruptor should be going towards that battery. Pretty much when it's kiting all the time. I don't. I was, yeah, but I'm planning on doing that. I don't think it's doing it right here though.
I think it did a little bit. I just
Yeah. But the thing is I wanted to detect that the battery is in that area and then move towards it to, as I thought I did that, but I guess I didn't. I don't know. Maybe I dreamed it.
Maybe you don't. Great things sometimes happen in dreams, and you dreaming about moving to batteries is one of the greatest things I've heard today. That's a beautiful dream. Yeah, this game was pretty over. You have a lot of workers though, and after a while, I think I saw probes going here, and for a second I was like, oh no, maybe this was like it was probably earlier. I was like, oh, maybe this base was like a proxy base that you took earlier. Is that something that is common at all? Things like proxy bases or proxy tech in general, or not so much?
Yeah. I mean, early game. It's not so common late game. But I think maybe this one over here. I'm not sure why it went to that one next. It should have went over here. Maybe it was blocked. Maybe these other ones are seen as blocked. And that's one of the a bad thing about bots is it doesn't know. Like it's seen all those probes like straight through your army. It has no clue it's doing that when it just says, "Oh, I want to go to this base and it's pathing." I can have them react and try to move out of the way once it gets in the range. But as far as like any concept of it's going to move its workers all the way, it has no concept at all.
Very interesting.
But yeah, that's one of the bad things about bots. I mean, if you did pathing, pathing would solve a lot of these things, but it's just it's just so much on the resources. I think I have one of the fastest bots, and I probably have enough resources to do it, but I don't know. It makes me angry.
And it should remain fun.
Especially with real time, because against bots, I can technically wait as long as you want against bots because it runs in step mode, and there's every frame it will wait for the bot to respond before it moves to the next frame, and then so in bots with bot it's not a big deal. You can pretty much take as much time as you want to, other than the fact that it's kind of rude to use up. If you're gonna, it makes the games take longer, obviously.
Right.
So it's kind of rude. and eventually at a certain point, you can get disqualified.
Yeah,
Take
yeah.
too long, but against humans, it's real time. It doesn't wait at all,
Yeah.
and so any you know any delays will just the bot will do bad. And that's one of the things with real time here is my micro is probably not as good as it would be against a bot in terms of that, because it's probably not working against a bot. I run step 2. A lot of bots run step 1, which means step 1 means every frame. Step 2 is every other frame. So I run step 2 because I like to. By the second step, I get the orders I gave on the previous one will be completed by then. Every other step, you have to do extra work for it. But against a bot or against a human like this right here, I'm probably only getting like once every 10 frames or so by this point in the game, especially with this many units. It's probably even more. So earlier game, it does probably better against humans, and then as more units it gets on there, the more it's just gonna basically run my units into your guys without kiting back, because it's not getting that message for so long.
Right. It's so interesting. I really I love all of this stuff so much. Just it's so fascinating to hear you talk about it. And sometimes I feel like I don't quite have the correct questions because I don't completely understand it. But it's so mightily interesting. It's beautiful to see as well. And the entire community is fantastic. Now, I have one more game that I kind of want to end on, because unlike your bots, I have a massive ego. So I couldn't let it go. That I lost with my protoss. So we had to go again. And I figured, why not Stargaze? It's one of the maps we hadn't played yet. Did maybe play a small role that there is a back base here, and that I had kind of figured out that maybe the only build that you have is a proxy or is a Robo 1 base all in. Yeah, perhaps that played a role in picking the map, but I'm only human. Can you truly blame me? What did you say again? Bots are good at things humans are bad at, and humans are good at things bots are bad at. And bots don't have an ego, and I'm definitely compensating for that.
Although this is about what I expected to begin with anyway, so.
It's very fun to play against it. It's just... I was fairly impressed with the level, and I guess part of it, of course, is going to be the speed mining. That is just good, but also, like, I don't know, the movement is fairly odd, but like the build orders are tight. It doesn't have, like, my only experience with playing against bots. Like I played some against AlphaStar, which was it felt different, and I played some against DieStar, the Zerg versus Zerg bot made by Ayusonu. But before that, like, the only real bots that I've ever played were just the Blizzard AIs, and those are so insanely abusable. And I think I can. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I can beat cheat the highest level of cheat AI in like 5 minutes.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Just because you also understand a lot of the mechanics where it will go wrong.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't build a wall for like Terran. It doesn't wall at all. It just it's just not very good.
Yeah. So it's like just seeing that that all of these bots just have. I'm sure there are. If I would study them very closely, I would find a lot of things that would abuse it very well. And especially because these bots are not really made for bot versus human play a lot of the time. It's perhaps a bit unfair to do that. But I was surprised by how clean everything is in a way. You know, how kind of sensible it is. I was very impressed by all of it.
Thank you. I spend a lot of time on the build orders. There's a lot of things that don't really show that are behind the scenes in terms of, because I time my buildings down to the second, my builds down to the second. So I had to get the cyber core out at a very strict time is what I want. So, and then I'll send my probe early so that it can build the cyber core at exactly the moment that it can. There's a lot of little tiny things that go into doing that, and as far as I know, it builds quicker than any other bot as far as a build order. I usually have my cyber core finished before anybody else, and oh yeah, here comes the
Okay. Yeah, I pulled a trick on you though. You want to see it?
Oh, did you mine out the others?
No. Look, I decided that if I send these in, I figured you probably want to cancel it on the last possible second. So I
Oh,
figured
yep.
I count and I just send it in the moment you want to cancel. And I was thinking either it's going to cancel or it's going to finish. Either way, it's going to be a win-win for me.
Yeah, it's gonna. I think it should finish. Oh,
And I went in.
I
Got
guess
him.
Yep, that's very well done.
I was very proud of myself when I did this. Stupid.
I needed to do that.
Watson.
That's a good trick. I think I might could pull that off.
No, I had a question earlier that I now forgot after showcasing this brilliant little move. I'm sure I'll get to it later. But yeah, I was fairly happy with this. And at this point, here, this is the response I should have done the first time, right? Just batteries at the RAM, straight up into Void Rays, that type of stuff. Yeah, it's absolutely ideal. Once again, nothing in here. This time I don't think you... Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I'm not sure what to do about these oracles because I have a lot of times the Banshee for Terran is a popular thing. Cloak Banshees early because it's hard to get detection out to kill them early. And
single batteries don't do the job, or
I haven't built any. I guess that's what I need to do. I don't. I used to take my probes and I would run them away so that the this oracle would come in and then the probes would just run away. But I found that wasn't actually very good because it took away so much mining time when I did that.
Yeah,
the basically your oracle could just sit there and my probes will be all moved away from the mining. So I try to let them stay in there and take damage and then not move until they lose their shields. But that's not working very well here.
Yeah, it really isn't. I thought this was funny as well. Is that I think this is the first time in my life where I've seen an oracle at half HP chase away stalkers.
It's cooldown.
Yeah. Because most of the time, obviously, you want to move forward because you want to kill the oracle. But I guess damage reduction is the #1 priority there. That makes some sense.
Yeah, probably not a good idea either.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess it's one of the. Imagine, is there something you could do about that? Like that specific scenario here with the oracle. Do you think of a way where you could be like, okay, in this scenario where there's an oracle threatening probes or whatever, could you then say my stalkers should prioritize on killing that oracle rather than denying damage on the stalker itself? Or is that not possible?
Yeah. I have a place. It's a function I call it should kite. So yeah, I should probably add in some rules for oracles for that, and then it won't kite them. So like I do that for tanks.
Yeah, because you can't really kite those.
Right. So yeah, like a tank. When I get up on a tank, they'll try to blink in and they'll try to get up on the tank as close as possible to prevent them from. And then also a lot of times what happens is other tanks will try to shoot the unit on the tank.
Yeah.
And then they kill their own tanks.
It's interesting.
But yeah, so I should probably do that.
I actually had one more question. The one from earlier that I thought of. When you mentioned the straight cybernetic core timing. So it's like, imagine, let's just say your cybernetic score goes down, or at what would it be? Like, let's just say like 45 seconds, or that is way too fast. Like 50 seconds. Or 1 minute, whatever the timing is. I can't think of... No, it's like 124, good lord. 124, your cybernetic score goes down. But imagine someone has been harassing your probes with like probe harassment and denies some of your mineral mining. Would that then... What would happen in your build?
That just delays it.
Oh, it's not like it's like, oh, it's too late, we'll never build it.
No, it's
okay.
It's pretty... It's flexible.
Okay.
If you do, it'll just take too long. And if it takes too long, eventually it'll just go ahead and it'll think something's screwed up, and it will just go to the macro to stage 2. And then, I mean, I could actually start to build in stage 2, but then it's going to do dumb things like, I don't know, build like a simulator before the first pylon. So because it doesn't have any kind, it just thinks I need this. It doesn't say this is more important than this. And once you get to the macro stage, it's not as important. But in the early builds, it's extremely important. So it's very, very strict in the earlies.
Might have
been
been
a good place for scouting. The void ray thing. I don't know.
I think the game was pretty over after I got my natural up and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, that pocket natural is very useful here because it wasn't able to see it and it wasn't able to try to punish you for expanding.
Oh, there I actually have one question about. Can you have map specific builds like that as well or no?
You
So
can, yeah.
is this
I
common
don't.
in the botting scene?
The some people do. I don't because I try to be more general. But yeah, some people. I'm sure that I would not be surprised at all if in the next probot somebody makes use of that extra natural over there, pocket natural. Puts a proxy of some sort in there. Mines out the minerals and you know comes in through the back door or something. I would not be surprised at all. I don't do it, but I know a lot of people do, or not a lot, but some people.
So interesting. I really love it. I also love I watch some of the ProBots matches, and this happens 3 or 4 times a year, correct? The ProBots.
Yeah, 3 a year. There's three of
Three.
them a year, and then there's also it's not it's not on the schedule so much. We also do another tournament on it's just mostly that's the top 12, and it'll be at the end of some seasons on the ladder because you have ladder season,
Right.
and then you have the probot seasons. There's 3 probots, and usually 1 or 2 of the other tournaments. We just had another one a couple weeks ago.
And how did you do?
I finished third. I got bunker contained by a Terran, and did not go well.
Nasty praise. Nasty stuff. All right. Yeah, I just want to thank you so much for your time. It was great. I really enjoyed playing against it, and talking to you as well. It's so interesting, and I'd urge everyone that watched this to check out ProBots as well, or just check out some of the ladder replays. Like some of them are extremely bad, but some of them are rather hilarious. And it's just fun to see how they all interact. And yeah, like I said, it's been great to just interact with the botting community in general. So thank you so much for that. Really appreciate that.
Thank you. If anybody is interested in making a bot, you can basically any language is supported. There's APIs for all the popular languages, and I mean any bot, any language will work. Python's pretty popular. This one was written. I used to use Python. This one's written in Go. They're all C's, all the C's. Any language. So yeah, if you want to make a bot, get into it.
And how quickly could you have a working bot? Like, is this a matter of like 15 hours and you have something that plays, or?
Well, it depends. There's frameworks where you can probably make a bot really really quick because you just use the framework to put in your build and what units you want, and then all the micro kiting is already done.
Like a standard template of sorts.
Yeah. There's one there's one in Python. It's called Sharpie, and then there's also one in I think C#. I think, and it's Sharky, Sharpie and Sharky. So Sharkbot is made. Shark Nice is the author of Sharkbot. He also made the Sharky framework, and then Sharpened Edge is made by Dr. Infy, and the framework for that is Sharpie.
All right.
So perfect. You can use one of those and get a bot up really, really quick.
And how competent do you need to be? Let's say someone that can barely start Windows like me. Is it possible for me to do as well, or is it too much? I need to have some coding experience.
I learned. I never done. I've been programming for a long time, for about 20 years, but I've never used Go until I made a bot. So I mean, I don't know.
Maybe I'll
it's a good way to learn. It's a good way to learn.
All right.
If you're wanting to get into programming, if you're new to programming and you want to get into programming, I think making bots and doing something that you really, really like and have a motivation to do is a great way to learn. So if you want to learn how to do programming, I think a bot is an excellent way to learn.
Okay. I think that's a great way to end it. Thank you so much once again for your time. It's been a pleasure. I wish you luck on, well, first of all, the ladder, of course, with -0, and also in the next Pro World season as the defending champion. We'll be cheering for you for sure. Thanks so much, man. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.